Hey. 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 Hey.
Just when I have all the answers, all the questions change.
It's me. I'm doing this way too often, aren't I? Yes, it's maybe not. I don't know. Maybe this is just the right amount. Maybe taking an 11-month break and then doing 4 podcasts in the course of about a week and a half. Maybe that's my pace. In fact, let's just say that is my pace because it is what it is, isn't it? So I don't know if you noticed the difference in my voice. I can't tell because I haven't listened to the recording yet since I'm in the process of recording this. But today I decided to be all professional and shit and use my good microphone. And I remembered why I went away from using my good microphone for a while, because it took me about as much time to set up my microphone as it normally has been taking me to do an entire podcast episode. Because unlike when I first started doing this and I got serious about it, and that's a mistake, isn't it? To get too serious about things? I mean, seriously. But when I first started getting serious about this, I got this little box, this little gadget, this doohickey, to get technical with you. It's called an iRig, and it's an amplifier. Basically, it allowed me to hook up my good microphone, my Sennheiser, for any gearheads out there. I've got a Sennheiser microphone, the kind that you normally would use on stage, or in this case, for doing professional recordings. So I got this gadget that allows me to hook it up into my iPhone. And I've also got this nice app, Boss Jock. For my avid 3.5 listeners, you will remember Boss Jock perhaps from last year when I was talking about it. It's a good app. It allows me to do what you heard in the beginning of this episode, and of every episode. It allows me to mix in music, which I don't do much of. I do it at the beginning and at the end, but it's something. It allows me to do music and mix it in, but more importantly, it allows me to talk, and it records very easily. It's just push a button and you're recording, right? Okay, so that's nothing new. But the part that I got away from was the part where I've got to set up my microphone, because I don't have a permanent studio space in my apartment, or a permanent studio space outside of my apartment. So every time I do set up for this and get my mic stand and hook up the cable and plug it into the iPhone and check the levels, and I know it may not sound like much, but it took me maybe 10 or 15 minutes to do that. And I'd really lately just been doing podcast episodes that aren't much longer than that. And also, I guess one of the reasons I went away from the professional microphone is I thought, is it really worth it? Sure, it sounds different. It does sound more professional, but really, who gives a fuck? Ding, 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 ding. There's my explicit tag. Every episode, whether I like to or not, or whether I need to or not, I do need to use some vulgar language just to make sure that the explicit tag on my podcast that I upload and that I upload to my site, and then also tell iTunes about it. iTunes has this tag that, where you let people know if you got any explicit shit going on. So there you go. I'd hate to, tag just by default, unconditionally, I tag my podcasts as explicit. And so, when I modify the XML file. Here we go for the geeks in the audience. I modify the file that points to my podcast, and I don't want to change it every time to say whether it's explicit or not. Let's just say by default it is. But the main reason I tag my stuff explicit is because I don't want to censor myself. I just don't want to censor myself. That's just the way it is. So there's that. But why am I really babbling today? It's because of what I'd been talking about, what's brought me to the microphone more frequently over the last week and a half or so. It's because of the audition that I had to be the voice of Jack, the new voice of Jack from Jack in the Box. There had been a guy who was doing it for 20 years, and I looked it up on Wikipedia and various other sources on Google and to find out what happened, why he's not doing it anymore. And it's just basically, in a nutshell, they've severed ties. The guy who was doing the voice, and God, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. Yeah, you can Google it. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember. But his name, he was doing it he created the character, and he'd been doing it for a lot of years. And he wasn't just the voice of Jack. He was also the guy who was instrumental in doing the campaign with that big white-headed guy doing the voice of Jack in the Box for all those years. He was not actually in the costume. A variety of random people were in the costume acting out the physical stuff for the Jack character. But there was one guy behind the scenes doing the voice of Jack for 20 years, and one thing leads to another. There, various political things, I guess, in the background. The advertising agency that was handling the campaign is no longer handling the campaign, so now they're, rather than just totally abandoning this character that's been around for 20 years, Jack in the Box decided they're going to find as close of a voice match as they can. A voice and attitude match, as the casting call said. So I saw that casting call and I submitted for it. For my 3.5 loyal fans who've listened to the last few podcasts, you know that. For anybody who's just randomly tuning into this for the first time now, you know that. So I submitted, and in a nutshell, that was about 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago that I submitted. And then they had me do an audition. That audition was online, which was great because it saved me several hours of driving to and from Hollywood. And then the callback that I got called in for in person was Tuesday, 11 days ago. And I counted on my fingers to make sure I got that right. Today is a Saturday. I did the audition on a Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays ago. So I think it's pretty safe to assume at this point that I am not going to be the new voice of Jack in the Box. Jack, open paren, in the box, close paren. Pretty safe to assume. I mean, I don't know. The people at the advertising agency and or at Jack in the Box could be dragging their feet. They might be asking everybody who works at Jack in the Box what they think. That could take a while. But more likely, they have gone in another direction, as they say, and it's not going to be me, which is fine. I mean, I'm in the same position I was 2 weeks ago, not being the voice of Jack. 2 weeks ago, I was not the voice of Jack in the Box, and right now, I'm also not the voice of Jack in the Box. And unless a miracle happens and they actually are really dragging their feet and taking a long time to decide, that's not going to change. That status is not going to change anytime soon. So in the meantime, what had happened between 2 weeks ago and now, as I rode a little emotional roller coaster of my own making, because all of our emotional roller coasters are of our own making. Hey, there's some words there. R, A-R-E, and O-U-R, our. All of our emotional roaster coasters. Yeah, let's do a roaster coaster. Is that like a cooking chicken on a vehicle of some sort? A roaster coaster? Oh, I'm stretching. I'm stretching. I'm not really stretching. I don't feel like I'm stretching. I'm looking down now. It's 10 and a half minutes I've been recording. And unlike a couple of times when I'd done this, when I first started out, I'd put some pressure on myself to record for an hour. And then after a while, I started not enjoying that. And then I just said, screw it. I'm just going to record however long I feel like it. I did a few episodes where I even threw some music in just because I felt like that. So then I realized, oh yeah, this is my thing. I can do it for as long as I want to, or I can not do it at all, which, has been the majority of my life, not doing this. And then when I feel like doing it, I'll do it. So I'm doing it. And the main reason that I got my butt in the direction of this microphone today was to talk about the fact that, yes, indeed, it's safe to assume that I am not going to be the new voice of Jack in the Box. So here I am. Is there anything more to say about that? I guess only that something that we knew. Oh, I'm going to do something that might cause some noise here, moving the mic stand. It's drifting down a bit. Okay. Anything to say? Any lessons to learn? Anything to say looking back before I maybe take another 11-month hiatus from doing this podcast? I don't know. I don't know if there's a lesson to learn other than to say that time usually takes care of stuff. Because at some point in the last couple of weeks, I was, like I said, I had the emotional roller coaster, not the roaster coaster. Where, at first, and again, I'll just recap quickly for those of you who have not been listening. I went to the audition, felt like it went well. I felt, like I did as good a job as I could have. Got some good feedback from the casting director, although I understand, I take that with a grain of salt because they're, most likely just being polite. They're not going to say, ooh, you sucked, but it felt good. I've been doing this for a while, going out on auditions for the last 10 years. So, I felt good. I didn't leave anything on the table. I didn't drive away thinking, oh shit, I should have done this, I should have done that. It was fine. Okay, I did what I did. I prepared, I went in there, and I did what I did, okay? Okay, well, whether you think it's okay or not, it's okay. That's how it happened. So, in the immediate aftermath, I did what the conventional wisdom says. I put a cap on my emotions. I didn't want to feel excitement or anger or anything at all. You are supposed to. Now, there's my red flag a lot of times personally when I hear should or supposed to. I question that. But it turns out it is a good bit of advice. You can drive yourself crazy if you leave every audition just wondering what the hell, man. I hope the phone rings. Okay, so I put the cap on it. Then shortly thereafter, I thought, hey, wait a second. I want to allow myself to feel some of the excitement because this is a big deal. I've never been up for something this big. I've never been this close to something this big, something that could potentially last for years. And then a number of days went by and I felt exhausted because I was thinking about it all the fucking time and I wasn't allowing myself to focus on my life, the rest of my life. Because this is part of my life. Acting, going out on auditions, it's part of my life. So to say that thinking about the audition wasn't allowing me to focus on my life, that's kind of a weird thing to say since auditioning is a part of my life, right? What it wasn't allowing me to do was focus on my job and hanging out with my son and all that. So, okay. Then what happened? So at first I put a cap on it, then I got excited, and then I realized, I got to just let this go. I got to go back to conventional wisdom and let it go. So that happened. And then I thought, well, I really wasn't letting it go, although blah, 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 blah. What happens? Days go by, and I'm just not thinking about it as much anymore. Occasionally pops into my head, but the realization starts sinking in that the phone is probably not going to ring. So time took care of it. I wasn't able to totally let it go on my own and pull some kind of magic trick where I stopped thinking about it. In fact, isn't that one of those things where it's the pink elephant or purple elephant or whatever the hell it is? You make something up. It's a green cat. Somebody says to you, "Don't think about a green cat," and of course you're going to think about a green cat. It's the way our brains work. The more you try not to think about something, you're going to just be obsessing about it and thinking about it. But here I am now on a Saturday, and back to just being myself, taking a break from work, from my day job, enjoying myself, not thinking much about that voice of Jack thing anymore, because, at this point, the only thing I'm thinking about is that I'm talking about it now, just kind of looking at it in the rearview mirror and going, well, that was fun. Let me put a little bow on that package and say, that was fun. That came and went. Didn't get that big opportunity. Well, I got the opportunity, but I didn't get the big payoff at the end. And okay, fine. I'm still glad I did it. Just like with all of this, it's all about experiences, man. You know what, man? You can say, I can just sit in my house and be safe and secure and just not do a damn thing, not risk anything, not risk my emotions, not risk my time or my money, and just sit and just complain about the world and how terrible it is and how terrible my life is and nothing good ever happens to me, and then not do anything about it. I could do that. or I could get out and try stuff. Sometimes get it, sometimes not. But the main thing about it is being in the arena is fun. And while I don't do it as much as I used to, that's just a personal choice. I just, there's only so much effort that I care to, what is the word? Exert. There you go. And I'm doing it. And I'm giving it a shot. I keep checking the message boards, the casting calls, the help wanted, acting help wanted signs, checking those every day. But not in an obsessive way. I mean, it doesn't really take much effort. I get email alerts telling me when there's stuff that might fit my age range and whatever other attributes I have set at the Actors Access website that would trigger an email to be sent to me. So it doesn't really take a lot of effort. I pay attention. When I see something that relates to me and that I would think would be worth the drive up to Hollywood, I submit to it. Occasionally, I actually get an audition, and even less occasionally, I get a callback, and even less occasionally, like once every 10 years, I get really close to something like being the spokesperson for a major fast food brand. So that now is in the rearview mirror, and here I am, sitting in my underwear on the bed with my professional microphone and my iPhone and my Boss Jock app recorder, getting ready to wind this thing up, I think, because I really don't have any other topics to talk about. I sure as hell don't want to talk about politics. How weird is that shit? I mean, politics has always been something that's kind of annoyed me anyway, and now these days, holy fuckaroli. I just don't even want to get into that. Just weird as shit. But even that, I guess what I will say about that, though, is I have been successfully, for the most part, able to say, you know what? I'm just going to look around me as I'm doing right now, look at the walls, look at the light coming into the room, look at my hand, my fingers, remind myself that those are the things that are reality. Those are the things that I'm really facing. Those are the things that I might have some control over, maybe. And all this other crap is like, whatever. It's just a bunch of crap. Like I said, I don't want to get into it. So, for those of you 3.5 loyal fans that are listening now, thanks for listening. And until next time, which might be a couple days or it might be 11 months or 11 years, talk to you later. This has been and will continue to be Joe. On and off the microphone, I will continue to be Joe.
Just when I have all the answers, all the questions change. One day the world looks so normal, next it looks so strange. Looking over the ocean on a sunny day. I'd like to stay here forever, it would be okay.